once he unlocked and cracked the code of acquiring other businesses, it was like pouring jet fuel on the growth of his business. It was just absolutely insane. What's going on, guys? So after the overwhelmingly positive response on Monday's video, I decided to come back with you again just 2 days later. Today, we're going to be talking about acquisitions in the e-commerce space and how acquiring other businesses is actually the fastest way to grow, why you would want to do it, and how exactly to do that. Now, we are in an environment, as an owner of a marketing agency, I'm very well aware that acquisition costs just keep going up over time, and they're going to continue to keep going up. That's something that is not going to change as more advertisers come into the ad space. So what do we actually do about that? We need to find a way to continue to grow our business, to acquire more customers, and to do all of that without continuing to spend more on ads and squeezing out our profit margins. So I'm going to start with a story from one of my clients from a couple of years ago to explain just how powerful some of this stuff is. And then we're going to get into exactly how to do all of this. And then finally, at the end, we'll talk a little bit about funding and values of these businesses and whatnot. So stick around right through to the end. That way you've got a full idea as to how to go about this. Now, one of my clients a few years back, we were doing meal preparation. I won't tell you exactly which country. I don't want to give away their identity and exactly who they are, but we were doing meal preparation marketing for ads for a meal prep service. So the customer would come, order on the website, and then every day they would get delivered food, for healthy and sort of gym-oriented fitness foods. And that was on a subscription. So their acquisition cost and what they were willing to pay to acquire customers was actually quite high. It was in the hundreds of dollars, and they were happy to do that. But eventually it just got to the point where it wasn't economically viable anymore. We had tried everything. We obviously were running Facebook ads, then we tried Instagram and Pinterest and whatnot. And then the client just fell off the map. And I didn't speak to them for about two or so years. And then we reconnected after about another service offering that my agency was introducing. And I had a long conversation with the guy, and what he did absolutely blew my mind. In that time, he had raised $11 million and acquired 7 other e-commerce brands, turning his company into a $100 million plus enterprise, and obviously making a phenomenal return in the process. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and raise money to acquire businesses. It's actually quite the contrary. You can do it without doing that at all. In some cases, it is necessary, but we'll talk about that in another video. What my point is that his growth strategy moved away from Facebook and Instagram advertising. Of course, he was still doing that internally, and each of these businesses were doing that. But once he unlocked and cracked the code of acquiring other businesses, it was like pouring jet fuel on the growth of his business. It was just absolutely insane. And he just went on a shopping spree, buying business after business. Now, all of these businesses were complementary, and we'll talk about the strategies and what kind of businesses you want to buy in just a moment. But the main point being is that growth doesn't just have to be internal. We can look at external growth, inorganic growth, geometric growth, and exactly how that can grow your business. By the end of 2025, you're watching this in January of 2025. By the end of 2025, you can double, triple, even 5 times your business with the right acquisition. So let's just get straight into it. All right, so when it comes to acquisitions and what kind of business you might want to buy, again, don't worry about the funding. We'll talk about that in just a sec. There are 2 main reasons or approaches that you want to take in order to increase either your profits or your revenue. That is horizontal expansion versus vertical integration. So you may have actually heard of vertical integration. Vertical integration is when you buy up and down the supply chain. So what exactly does that mean? That means in this example of and this guy also did this very, very effectively to build this corporation. When you buy up and down the supply chain, you're effectively buying your suppliers and buying the people you supply to, okay? So when you look at the value stack of any product or service, there's value that's added at each point of the process. It starts with raw materials right at the beginning, and then those raw materials get turned into, a slightly more mature to develop product, and then that gets packaged up and branded into the end product that the consumer gets, and then it gets delivered out to the customers. And each layer of business throughout this process, there's a little percentage of the total value of the profits. Now, by you going and buying your suppliers, not only do you capture the profit that you generate from supplying to the end consumer, but you also capture that value up the supply chain, right? And you can increase your profit margins that way. So that's vertical integration, extremely, extremely powerful. And then there is horizontal expansion. Now, horizontal expansion is when you buy across your vertical. So you're at the same point of the supply chain. Let's say you're an e-commerce brand, you go and buy other e-commerce brands. So you might be buying competitors, or you might be buying complementary businesses. And so what buying your competitors effectively means is buying the people that you're competing with, and then you can share customers. Or buying complementary businesses is businesses that share the same customers, the same audience. And then again, you can share customers in order to increase and to grow your business. So if we're using pet supplements as an example, you might be someone that sells dog foods. And so you have all of these customers that are pet owners. Then you might want to go, and let's say you're doing $1 million a year. Then you might want to go and buy a pet supplement brand that's doing another $1 million a year. Now you're the owner of a $2 million business when you combine the two, but the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. So all of those pet customers, the supplement customers, you can market your dog foods to. And let's say you can increase your revenue by 30% by an extra $300,000 on the dog food side by bringing the supplement customers over. And then you can start selling dog food to the supplement customers and port the customers the other way and increase that business by another 30%. So that's another 300K. So you will go from $1 million to buying another $1 million business is $2 million plus an extra $600,000 in value extracted from the customers. And this is why when you look at acquisitions and what we talked about yesterday, or roll-ups, the more businesses you buy and the more you can conglomerate, the more value you create, and the more someone is willing to buy your business for as a multiple of your profits. So it's really, really the most effective way to grow your business. So that's the basics of the numbers and how the numbers work. Now, when it comes to the horizontal expansion, there are also other benefits that you can realize. You can extract and share team members and talent across the businesses. So it's, in the software space, for example, let's say you buy a company with really strong AI developers so that you can fold that into your current business and build AI into your current business. That's another reason. You can also share processes and efficiencies. So all of these e-commerce businesses that you're buying, we can increase the profit of them because each and every one of them would be using a different supplier when it comes to distribution of the products and warehousing. So you can then take your 5 new brands, go to those 5 suppliers and say, hey, I will bring all of this business to you, 5 times the amount of business you currently have from me, if you can do me a good deal. And then your costs will significantly decrease. Or you can then vertically integrate and go and buy a wholesaler or a warehousing facility once you have enough brands in order for it to make sense to do so. And so you realize those core efficiencies and end up making far more profit once again. And then of course, the obvious one is sharing customers. Then when it comes to vertical integration, like we said, we buy up the supply chain, we open up the margins, and again, we can share customers when we're vertically integrating. So let's say you have 5 e-commerce brands and you go and buy your wholesaler or your warehouser rather, you can then bring all 5 of those e-commerce brands to the warehouser, and that business that you just acquired, let's say it had 15 clients and you're adding another 5, you've just grown that business by 30%. So we don't only, when we're buying these businesses, we don't look at them in isolation. We want to look at them strategically within our current ecosystem and leveraging the assets that we already have, whether that's an e-commerce brand, whether that's, a lot of you guys that have e-com brands also have marketing agencies, which also work very well together. And that's exactly what I did in the e-commerce space a couple of years back and leading up to COVID is, we had the agency and we were leveraging that. And then every e-commerce brand that we started would become a client of the agency, in turn growing the agency. So if you want to execute on this model, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, who are my competitors and what businesses are similar to mine? And then that'll allow you to horizontally expand if you start buying up those businesses and then directly reach out. We'll talk about reach out in another video. It's something that we do a lot of with the businesses that we're buying. I buy a lot of medical businesses. That's my current focus. And then you want to ask yourself, who are my suppliers? Who am I actually giving money to, and how can I capture some of that value? And then you'll be able to vertically integrate by that token by moving up the supply chain or moving down the supply chain. Who am I selling to? Can I potentially buy those guys so that I can capture more of the value? Not so relevant when it comes to e-commerce, because e-commerce, you're servicing the end consumer. But if you have a manufacturing business, for example, it might make sense to start buying up some of your clients. And then you can get into really creative stuff. If you're a big customer of one of your suppliers, let's say you're a very big e-commerce brand and you're 30% of your agency's business, you can say, hey, let's talk. I want to buy into the business. Otherwise, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. And then they effectively, have to do it. I've got a whole bunch of stories of really creative sort of savage business acquisitions that have happened, and we can get into them another day if you guys want as well. And then you just want to start reaching out, okay? Start reaching out to these guys. I know the big question you're asking yourself is, how do I actually fund all of this? We will get deep into funding in another video because we have to talk about valuations first, and we will also talk about valuations. So go through to the channel and find the valuations video, and then from there, watch the funding video. But we are going to be using all other people's money. It's very simple and straightforward to do, whether it's bank debt, whether it's investor money, whether it's the actual seller's money. Sometimes we get the sellers to put the money into the deal, or if they have a large lending facility with their bank, we get them to go and take out a loan, pay themselves, and then sign over the business, so that we don't have to borrow any money, and it's not our credit rating at all that is sort of on the line. So there's so many different ways to do this. We will get into it, but don't worry. I don't want you to think, oh, I can't do this because, you know, I don't have a massive balance sheet. I'm not rich. How am I going to pay for a business? It's totally possible. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like the video, share it, and most of all, comment your thoughts down below and tell me what you want to hear about. There's not a lot of good mergers and acquisitions content online, and that's why I'm doing this, is because one, I enjoy talking about all of this stuff, and it keeps me passionate about the business that I'm in. Like I said, we're buying medical facilities at the moment, and you know, I just want to help people. I have nothing to sell. I could, you know, the acquisitions space is extremely lucrative. It doesn't make sense for me to sell a course or anything like that, so you don't have to worry. I'm just here to help. So please drop a comment down below. Let me know if you want to keep seeing this stuff, and in particular, what the challenges are. Let me know what the doubtful points are that you have, and then I can make videos directly addressing those. As always, guys, thank you. Like, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.